So let me welcome us to the session which has been organized by both National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation, the International Science Technology Center in Kazakhstan. Before we begin, just for the benefit of my Director General and also the Executive Director for International Science and Technology, it may be prudent we introduce ourselves. And then after we introduce ourselves, the Director General of NACOSTI will give his welcoming remarks. And after the Director General of NACOSTI has given his welcoming remarks, Dr. Carmen from the International Science and Technology Center may invite his Executive Director to also maybe welcome us. And thereafter, I welcome our presenter, who I hope will take just about 30 minutes. And our presenter is a person we've been acquainted with for a long time, both of us being physicists. And at the end, I will request all of us to, in between that is, all of us may use chat for giving questions or making observations or discussions, so that at the end, we ask our presenter any questions and we discuss, and finally, we can agree on our way forward. So for the introductions, I would welcome the ladies first, and then the younger gentlemen followed, and then the older ones like myself last. So ladies, please introduce yourselves. You give your name, your organization, and and your country. And then we listen to our Director General. At the end, when we'll be asking questions, please remember our presenter has been a Director General. He's now Director for Nuclear Power in Kazakhstan. So let's be respectful and also be kind to him. And I thank you for listening to me. So introductions, please. And when you introduce, let us see your picture.
Good morning. My name is Semipalatinsk. I work at a Nuclear Power and Energy Agency here in Kenya, the Directorate of Energy Research and Development. Thank you.
Hello.
I saw Diana, but maybe she's shy still. So we can go to the young men.
Hello. Hello. My name is Michael Magala. I work for the University of Nairobi as a lecturer at the Institute of Nuclear Science.
Hello. I am Asa Koteng, Deputy Director at Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. And as you can see, I'm working from home this week.
Hello, good morning. My name is Monty Collins. I work for Kenya Bureau of Standards, and I'm happy to be here.
Good morning. I'm Michael Atogo, working with the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority, and I'm working from the office. I'm happy to be here too.
Good morning. I'm Zefania Mukaka from the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. I'm Nadir Hashim from Kenyatta University, and I'm also the Afranest National Coordinator. I'm happy to attend this meeting. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jeremiah Kebwaro from Karatina University here in Kenya, and I'm also a participant in the SADC project.
Kiridi. I don't know whether somebody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Humphrey.
Yeah, we can hear you, Lumadede.
Okay, now my name is Humphrey at Kiridi, Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute. I am in Maragoli now, presently, and there is poor network here. Maybe the nuclear power will try to bring some network this side.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Raphael, a tutorial fellow at JQuat and the Secretary General for African Young Generation. I'm currently in Poland for my fellowship, IEA PhD fellowships. Thank you. Happy to be here.
The South Africans and the gentleman from Burundi.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Haupal Santwere. I'm the president of the African Young Generation in nuclear. I'm also a nuclear physicist working for the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, NEXA, which is currently now trying to replace Safari One. Thank you.
Okay, David.
The executive director of AFCON is also present, but for the benefit of time, because I'm sure you'll give him time to talk later, let our Director General, Professor Weawa, welcome us. Thank you very much. Welcome, Director General.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, David, and the eminent physicists. The executive director, the chief guest will be presenting. It's quite a pleasure to be invited to give my welcome remarks to this webinar. I will not say much, I'll do exactly that. But perhaps I could say that I'm indeed very impressed to have to be in the midst of such a great gathering of physicists. Our understanding, or a layman's understanding, when we hear of the word physicist, we always imagine the atomic bomb. The other day there was something about Iran and so forth. So I've been telling David that is there a way that the physicists can transform the image of physics, not from bombs, but to provide food to society. And indeed, he told me that there's a lot that nuclear science does that impacts directly and positively on the society. And probably that's the message and the gospel that needs to be spread, especially for the young teens that are coming up. Otherwise, I'm pleased that as NACOSTI, we are involved with ISTC. I'm informed our country has made an application to be a member of state parties in this area. And NACOSTI, I think, has been chosen to spearhead this process. So we will pursue this aggressively. I'm new also. I'm just 3 months old in my position. By profession, I'm a civil engineer, very close to physicists. And one area where we are very weak as scientists is in science communication. Our language is normally very straight and to the point, and the politicians do it very well. So I'm pleased to be here to join such eminent fora. We will support, and David knows we will support whatever needs to be done on our side. We'll continuously engage our government to ensure that we meet the requirements that are required to be a state party to ISTC. So, as I said, I will not say much. At Nakosti, our key area of interest, which I've mentioned in the past when we had another forum with Afranest, is that 2 areas that we are moving on very fast. One is to form maybe a local science, technology, and innovation network. So we would be calling on you, and the network is likely to be in thematic areas, and probably nuclear science and radiation and so forth they could form a name and form a thematic area, and which will be calling on the executive director and the eminent physicists to assist us on that. The other one, we are also trying to form research consortia in what is directly related to national development of Kenya. We are calling it the Big 4 agenda in food security, in health, in housing, in manufacturing, and so forth. So again, when we kindly request some of you in your areas of expertise to help spearhead some of these consortia, we will be very happy. And that will create a more bonding connection as we move forward, so that we're able to relay that nuclear science has a much more positive impact on the Kenyan people and even the African people. Otherwise, those were my welcome remarks to welcome all of you to this session. I'll be on and off as I'm being called to another meeting, but I always log off and log in. So just bear with me. But I know David will be able to give us the full news after the end of this session. Otherwise, thank you very much, and God bless. Back to you, David.
Thank you very much, Director General, for welcoming us to the webinar. Dr. Carmen, probably could welcome your Executive Director to also give some remarks, and then you introduce our presenter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, that's what I intend to do. I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has been working with the International Science and Technology Center, which is headed by David Cliff, the Executive Director of it. And David is in this position ever since 2014, and previously, of course, he has served as well in various other capacities, including the Chief Financial Officer of it. David's CV is way too long to be able for me to present it in greater detail, but I would say that his expertise is valued both by colleagues and partners abroad. So definitely, please, you have the floor.
So thank you very much, Carmen. I'm delighted to welcome all participants in today's event on behalf of ISTC. I'm sure many of you are aware of the mission of ISTC and its record of achievements in the course of the last 25 years. ISTC is an intergovernmental organisation connecting scientists with their peers and research organisations in other countries. The ISTC headquarters is in Nur-Sultan, from where I'm speaking to you now, in Kazakhstan. And current members of governments include Armenia, the EU, or now the 27 member states of the EU, Georgia, Japan, Kazakhstan, the Republic of Korea, Kyrgyzstan, Norway, Tajikistan, and of course the United States. Scientists from nearly, in fact, it's creeping up to perhaps looking at 100 countries have participated in the ISTC activities, including, of course, many African countries. A substantial part of our mission is to support the integration of scientists with nuclear safety applicable knowledge into global scientific and economic communities through national, regional, and international research collaboration. We work to develop and sustain a culture of non-proliferation, CBRN, security awareness and responsibility through education and training. In this sense, ISTC facilitates and encourages the building of partnerships among organizations that aspire after similar goals. Last year, following a successful working visit to Kenya by the ISTC management, we established cooperation with the National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation, NACOSTI, which subsequently became a partner to ISTC. We respect and support its role in developing priorities in scientific, technological and innovation activities in Kenya, and reviewing the progress in scientific systems in attaining national development. The group of our partners in Kenya includes also the Kenya Bureau of Standards, the Nuclear Regulatory Authority, and most notably the Association of Young Researchers and Professionals, Kenya Young Generation in Nuclear. This explains why we look at Kenya as a leading African partner with whom we intend to cooperate on a national scale, but also regionally. In terms of regional continental approach, we have a valuable counterpart with which we have concluded a memorandum of cooperation in the face of the African Commission on Nuclear Energy, AFCON. And of course, AFCON plays a key role in advancing the peaceful application of nuclear science and technology in Africa, and in bringing much needed support to states parties to fully benefit from nuclear sciences and technology applications. We also have numerous reliable partners in Kazakhstan, such as the National Nuclear Center, the Nuclear Safety Technology Center, and the Nuclear Society of Kazakhstan, to mention a few. The long-standing cooperation with today's keynote speaker, Dr. Timur Jantikin, dates from the years when he headed, until recently, the Committee on Atomic Energy Supervision and Control, the Nuclear Regulator of Kazakhstan. The region-to-region collaboration in the field of nuclear safety and security acquires growing importance. Kazakhstan, one of the world's biggest uranium producer and exporter, has remarkable experience to share in nuclear governance, not only with the rest of Central Asian region, but worldwide, including Africa. So I'm therefore looking forward to an informative and creative discussion in the framework of this webinar. So on that, I will say thank you. And on that note, I hand you back to our co-hosts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. And now it is indeed my great pleasure and honor to introduce for welcoming remarks the Executive Secretary of the African Commission on Nuclear Energy, our most respected and partner and dear friend, Dr. Messoud Baliomer, who comes from Algeria. He has been serving as director at the Algerian Atomic Energy Commission. He also is a member of AFRA Management Committee. He headed the Birin Nuclear Research Center, and as the head of the Nuclear Instrumentalization and Control Department, he contributed to the commissioning of several major nuclear facilities in the country. Dr. Baliomer was awarded the scientific grade Maître de Recherche. He has been leading since 2007 the team in charge of the creation of the implementation of the Algerian Institute of Education and Training in Nuclear Engineering. In January 2007, he chaired the Scientific Committee of the African Regional Conference on Nuclear Energy, held in Algiers, at which decisions were made, one can say historical decisions, and the plan of action came into being, adopted later by the African Union Heads of States Summit in Addis Ababa. So, Messoud, with greatest pleasure, the floor is to you.
Please unmute yourself, Bella.
Still not heard, to the best of my understanding. Hello? Hello?
Mesaud, please unmute.
Hello? Masoud, do you hear us? Do you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we understand that there is a technical difficulty, and probably we will be able to switch back to Masoud at some later moment of time. And I suggest that we now move to the keynote presenter for today, the person whose expertise we cherish so deeply, and I wanted to reintroduce, as already done by my executive director, Dr. Timur Zantikin, who is the director currently of the Kazakhstan Nuclear Power Plant, as a fellow at the Institute of Nuclear Physics in Almaty, Kazakhstan. He conducted experimental research on radiation effects in solids, including construction steels and special alloys used in nuclear reactors and in amorphous alloys. He holds a PhD degree in physics and mathematics. From 1995 to 2018, Dr. Zantikin served as the Director General of the Kazakhstan Atomic Energy, the National Nuclear Regulator, responsible for nuclear safety and security application of the IAEA safeguards, nuclear export and import control. Before turning the floor to Dr. Zantikin, I wanted to say that we, as ISTC, as many of you know, conduct in Africa a project supported and funded by the European Commission, designed to provide opportunities for greater safety and safeguards, as Africa is heading towards greater use of nuclear energy and every type of nuclear applications. We are confident that the issue of safety and safeguards deserves your attention. So while talking today on the governance of nuclear sector, I suppose Dr. Zantikin will share with you a lot which might be useful in your own work, setting up the background of the governance of the sector in your respective countries and the continent as a whole. So, Timur, please, you have the floor. Timur?
Hello, do you hear me?
Back.
Sorry?
Something happened. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Please.
we can hear you.
Please switch on the presentation if you wish.
Something happened. Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you for the organizers. It's just a short presentation on my personal experience, and maybe something will be useful for people who will be listening for it. Okay. I'll try to switch. Application. Now share. Do you see the application? Do you see the presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet. Something wrong. I try again. Boom, boom, share.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
No? Yeah.
We can see your screen. So pick the Kazakhstan experience PowerPoint.
Is it here?
We can
So
see
the presentation is on the screen. Okay. Does it work?
Not yet.
Not
the
yet.
PowerPoint is not yet open.
Why? Something happens with the maybe internet connection.
You know what, Timur, if I may suggest, I have your presentation. I can show it right now, and you just tell me when to switch next.
Okay. Something happened, something wrong. It doesn't see the application. I don't know why.
Here it is. Your presentation is on screen.
Okay. So you are showing it, yeah?
Yes, you just tell me when to switch next.
Okay. So this is the presentation on the experience of our regulatory body, and in principle, this is a maybe somewhat my personal view for it and my personal experience. And in this presentation, I'm going to focus more on problems that we had during our activities as a regulatory body. So the next, please, slide. Next slide.
It is already there, the Republic of
Yeah, I do not see it. Okay. And this is the map of our country. And the country is, you see, between several big countries like Russian Federation and China. And we have Caspian Sea that is not really geographically the sea, it's a big lake. Anyway, we have big water there. And well, next slide. Next. There is some data. Oops, something happened. Republic of Kazakhstan. As you know, we are a landlocked country, and we are located in continental Asia. And as I said, we have 5 neighboring countries. Kazakhstan border neighbors and border lengths are here. You can see that the longest border we have with Russian Federation, then with Uzbekistan, China, and Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan. The total length of land borders of Kazakhstan is a little bit more than 12,000 kilometers. Total is 2,700,000 square kilometers, with only 0.92% of water over it. Oops. slides. Well, here we have data on population, and the density of Kazakh population is very low. If we'll take the territory of Kazakhstan, and population will get only 7 people per square kilometer. Official languages are Kazakh and Russian. Is the legacy from the Soviet time, so we are using Russian as an official language. Capital city of Kazakhstan is Nur-Sultan. So the next slide. Oops. Nuclear sites and facilities in Kazakhstan. Here, schematically on the map, we show the nuclear sites and nuclear facilities. One of the largest nuclear site is a nuclear testing site in Semipalatinsk. Also, we have some test sites in Azgir. It's Western Kazakhstan, and other sites in Western Kazakhstan where so-called peaceful nuclear explosions were used for some industrial purposes. We have uranium industry. As it was said, we are producing natural uranium in the form of uranium oxide or concentrate. Oops. And it's about 9% of global production. The main producer is National Atomic Company Kazatomprom. Also in eastern Kazakhstan, in Uсть-Каменогорsk, we have Ulba fuel fabrication plant working with low enriched uranium, producing powders and pellets for nuclear fuel. This year, the company, it's a daughter company of Kazatomprom, they are going to establish a fuel assemblies production in Ulba plant. And as you know, we placed the International Bank of Low Enriched Uranium in Ulba under the auspices of the IAEA. The material that was placed into this bank belongs to the IAEA, and the bank was one of the projects of the IAEA supported by several countries that wished to lower the international nuclear security risk level. In Aktau, it's Western Kazakhstan, on the shores of Caspian Sea, we have Mangistau nuclear power plant with fast breeder reactor BN350. It was the first fast breeder in the world, the industrial scale fast breeder, but now it is shut down. Also, we have several research reactors in National Nuclear Center in Kurchatov in eastern Kazakhstan, and the 10 megawatt pool type reactor VVRK in Almaty. Next, please. Nuclear reactor set BN350 in Aktau. 3 research reactors in the Institute of Nuclear Physics also we have, and critical assembly. It's a zero power nuclear reactor. It's a photo of the Institute of Nuclear Physics. Thank you. Next please. Next slide. It's a historical review of the National Nuclear Regulator of Kazakhstan. In 1992, the Kazakhstan Atomic Energy Agency was established by the decree of the President of Kazakhstan, and at that time it was the agency that was responsible for all the nuclear sector. And in 92, it was the structure of the governmental organizations was changed, and the Atomic Energy Agency was integrated into the Ministry of Science and New Technologies as a more or less regulatory body, but it also had some functions for development of nuclear sector. In 1998, at that time in the Ministry of Energy, Industry and Trade, the nuclear power and industry issues were moved to newly established Department of Nuclear Power and Industry, and the Committee of Atomic Energy became the purely the regulatory body that was responsible only for the regulatory issues in the nuclear sector of Kazakhstan. Then in 2008, we moved to the Ministry of Energy. At that time, the Ministry of Energy was established, and later the nuclear and general energy issues were combined in the Committee for Atomic and Energy Control and Supervision of the Ministry of Energy. Next slide, please. Nuclear regulator. So one of the main questions that we faced during the operation of our committee was the independence, because independence, this is a problem that we have in the regulatory activities, maybe of any kind of regulators in different fields like aviation and others. Independence from the authorities and organizations or departments that are responsible for development of the regulated sector. Also, the independence of nuclear regulator prescribed in the conventions that we joined during our activities, and we understood that the independence of the regulatory body is something, you know, relative, because always you have some governmental authorities that are over you. But we focused on the most important question, having the final regulatory decision, like licensing and so on. And we were trying to keep all these capacities during all our activities. So every year we have approved separate budget for our committee, and all the decisions, all the regulatory decisions are final with our committee. Then there was a problem of a clear definition of responsibilities and competencies between the different involved state authorities, and clear definition of field of responsibility of a nuclear regulator. Because when you have changes in the structure of the governmental authorities, for example, there can be some overlapping areas, and here we have clearly defined who is responsible for what. And for example, we had problems, as it is shown here, examples of mixing these responsibilities of different authorities in nuclear facilities on nuclear safety and security. For example, a nuclear power plant where the nuclear regulator responsibility interfaces with the responsibility of other different regulatory bodies. Like, for example, we had a technical regulator that was responsible for lifting equipment, for pipelines, for vessels under pressure, and so on. But how to define who is responsible for it? It should be clearly defined before the responsibility comes into field. Next question is the adequate resources. Of course, it's a question maybe for all the state authorities, that the authority have to have technical and manpower resources. programs for development of resource base. And in our case, lack of technical resources, for example, were compensated by technical support organizations. We used the possibilities of National Nuclear Center, Institute of Nuclear Physics, and Nuclear Technology Safety Center in Almaty. Where in the financial resources and adequate trained personnel, these questions were problematic in our experience. So because it's very difficult to get adequate financial resources, for example, and trained personnel. Trained personnel, this is a problem because we have to have these people coming from industry, from science, because they have to have the adequate background in order to be trained as a regulator. So we had lack of these adequately trained people. And sustainability of the regulatory system. Why I am talking about the sustainability? Because when we had this experience, when government changed the principles of legal and regulatory system in general. So we were trying to keep the built nuclear regulatory system. And it was a little bit difficult because, you know, for example, the Ministry of Justice, they are issuing their own decrees and some provisions that in some cases are conflicting with our approach to regulation. So, and next slide, please. Here I want to show that like iceberg here, that the independence, we can declare that nuclear regulator should not dependent on authorities and other organizations interested in development. But here we have a big work that should be done that is not seen maybe to people. And we have to understand that there is no absolute independence of a state authority, maybe excluding the model of US NRC, when the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is reporting directly to Parliament, to Congress, but not to the government or president. And then, first of all, the regulator should have independence in regulatory decisions. So because the responsibility of a regulator is nuclear safety, security, and so on. So the final, having this responsibility, the final decision should be with the regulator, like licensing, permissions, and supervision of nuclear security. Then resources, when we are talking about resources, so of course we are declaring that nuclear regulator should have financial and technical resources and qualified personnel for adequate regulatory actions. But the problem is to establish the required independent budget, because you have to work with the Ministry of Finances, with the Ministry of Economy, to give them clear understanding why we need the independent budget. Then the addition of necessary technical means for inspectorate or use of independent technical support organizations. You should have technical means in order to fulfill your all your responsibilities, and selection, training of personnel, drills and testing of personnel qualification. It's also the problem because you have to have resources for it and corresponding personnel. So this is in some cases a problem. Next slide, please. Next. The problems that we had in Kazakhstan, it's a legacy of the Soviet Union, and the biggest problem was related to Semipalatinsk nuclear test site. You can see that the territory of this site, that is in eastern Kazakhstan, is comparable with the territory of some European countries like Slovenia or Israel, for example. And it was a little bit difficult to establish the monitoring system. And also we no documents or no knowledge what was done on the territory of this site, what happened, and where the tests really were conducted, and so on. So this lack of information also gave a problem for establishment of a necessary control on the territory of the former test site. This is the history of the site that was established in 1947, and after closure of in 1991, closure of the nuclear test site, in total 456 tests were conducted on this site. The first problem that we faced with the nuclear test site was the application of the IAEA safeguard. In '94, Kazakhstan signed a comprehensive safeguards agreement, and at that time we had on the territory of our republic one of the largest nuclear arsenals, so nuclear weapons were on the, and also we had one nuclear device that was not exploded on the territory of the Semipalatinsk test site. Because the elimination of nuclear weapons and liquidation of the last nuclear explosive on STC happened only 1 year later. So this was the period when we worked with the IAEA how to begin the application of the IAEA safeguards to the objects of the Semipalatinsk test site. And in 2004, Kazakhstan signed the additional protocol that was enforced in 2007, and with that, we faced a new problem: how to apply all these measures of additional protocol to the Semipalatinsk test site, because you know that will, example, examine all the nuclear isotopes that we had on the test site. There can be a leak of information that is very sensitive for non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. So also we had to develop some special procedures for application of measures of additional protocol. We had wide discussions with some nuclear weapon states and with the IAEA, and I hope that the problem is being solved. Next slide, please. Safeguards. So it is not in the title of the presentation, but safeguards is one of the components along with safety and security that is important for the countries that have nuclear activities. Well, some problems. First of all, the agency or authority should be defined that will be responsible for reporting to the IAEA, and the definition should be clear. And for example, we had at the very beginning we agreed that the Atomic Energy Agency will be working with the IAEA, and all the reporting was after it was with the agency that was changed to committee. So the reporting on safeguards was always with us. But when we discussed the application of additional protocol, the responsibility for reporting under additional protocol was given to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it a little bit complicated our reporting to the IAEA. So we are reporting directly to the IAEA under the Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement, but the reports on additional protocol are sending through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's complicates the situation. So we do not recommend to separate these reportings. Then we had a problem of procedures and coordination of organizations involved into the interaction with the safeguards department of the IAEA. Organization of inspections, participation in nuclear and interaction with the state system for accountancy and control of nuclear materials, if this system is in place. So why this problem comes? Because you have to clearly establish all these procedures, who will be accompanying inspectors, do the nuclear regulator take part in the IAEA organized inspections, how the problems will be solved, for example, with uranium enterprises. We had problem of hiding some information by the well, based on these principles of commercial sensitivity, and we had to, work with these enterprises, explaining them safeguards and so on, in order to provide to the inspectors of the IAEA all the requested information. And in some cases, the responsible organization, normally it's a nuclear regulator, should take action for practical organization of the IAEA inspections. Well, including all this domestic logistics, resolution of possible problems, as I said, with access to facilities, access to documentation and to information, and other items will be necessary for right completion of inspections. Please, next slide. Then we had problem of collection of necessary data that will be reported to the IAEA. And we had this problem of commercially sensitive information. And for example, sorry. Well, for example, production trade plans. This is a commercial, very sensitive information. Technical and engineering data, also enterprise development plans, especially when we are preparing the ports under the additional protocol and so on. All these data are very sensitive, and commercial enterprises are not very happy to disclose this data to the IAEA. So we have to, convince them that it is necessary. And one of the very complicated problem is the nuclear material in non-nuclear organizations. For example, in general industry, in science, in medicine, agriculture, especially military. Personnel of these organizations are not familiar with the nuclear accountancy and responsibility of a state for reporting this information to the IAEA under the safeguards agreement, and possible inspection requirements and procedures. For example, we had problems with nuclear material discovered in these kind of organizations, like uranium shields, collimators in medicine, containers made of depleted uranium, plutonium sources and fire detectors, and so on. So they know that this is a nuclear material. So and of course we have no information about it. This was the problem to find, to explain to these people that they have to report it and so on. Then we have interconnection problem of export and nuclear export and import data with safeguards. If we are importing, we had problem, for example, with the importing of medical irradiators, because some parts of these irradiators are fabricated from depleted uranium. So, but importing organizations, they do not know that this is a nuclear material. So we had to control all these things during this nuclear export and import procedures in order to get the information for amount of nuclear materials that comes to the country or out of country in order to include it into the safeguard reports. At the beginning, we had problem of coordination of different accountancy systems related to nuclear material. For example, on the fuel fabrication plant, they had accountancy based only on cost of the material. And then we had this transfer period when they transferred the amount, the accountancy system to amount-based accountancy. Next, please. Safety issues. Again, here we have to clearly define the roles and responsibilities of governmental authorities, especially in interfacing and overlapping areas, like, for example, transportation, health and environment protection, emergency preparedness. In transportation of nuclear and transportation regulators, here we have a problem that nuclear regulator is regulating the nuclear transport based on the recommendations of the IAEA, but you know that the transportation authorities, they have their own basic documents from UN Committee for Transportation, and we had to discuss, and we agreed who will be regulating what. As we agreed, we were regulating the nuclear material, the packages, and so on. But as we said, wheels and wings were with the transportation authorities. Environment protection, health, nuclear regulator and corresponding ministries. So this is obvious that we have to again establish this clear separation and definition of functions in these sectors. Emergency preparedness. So this is a little bit complicated. It was a little bit complicated for us, and because the many ministries and agencies were involved into the general questions of emergency preparedness. Also, we have local governments that are responsible for emergency preparedness issues. So we had to discuss with all of them, but still we have no final regulatory document establishing this interaction of different agencies and organizations in emergency preparedness. Then we had a problem of safe use of radioactive sources and other different sources of ionizing radiation, like X-ray machines, radiators, accelerators in industry, agriculture, medicine, and especially we had this very specific problem with dental clinics due to very small sizes of the X-ray diagnostical machines. Then we had a problem with radiological diagnostics and treatment in oncology centers where they had very strong sources. Also, the non-nuclear scientific organizations and academia, they were not very informed on nuclear safety issues. So all these things came to the to our view after not from the very beginning, but it came later maybe. Next slide, please. For example, with the radioactive sources. As a legacy, we can say that practically all the inventory data were lost, and the problem also was that the inventory records were with the Ministry of Interior Affairs during the Soviet time. Then it was a little bit difficult to collect all this data, to find this data and to put it into the national register. So there was a problem of development of national register of sources. We tried to use for some kind of software like RAIS, but RAIS was failed due to large number of sources. At that time, it was we found over 15,000 of different sources. And tens of, as it is shown here, tens of thousands of radioactive sources were used in metallurgical industry, civil construction, oncology hospitals, dental and other clinics, nuclear research centers. And this is a photo of Institute of Nuclear Physics, where they have a production line for nuclear isotopes. Well, it's more or less okay because they're nuclear engineers, so they understand the problem. But non-nuclear organizations, this is a problem. Okay, next slide, please. Emergency preparedness and response. It was also, as I said, it was also the problem because in the case of safety or security event, the problem of definition of roles and responsibilities and coordination of actions of involved authorities, ministry, agencies, national and local governments, how and who is responsible for in what stages of response to emergency case, for example. And we have to establish a clear response procedures. And it's very important to adopt national and local emergency contingency plans. Because if something happens, we have to be ready to realize this procedure, not to agree during the response actions with the agencies and ministries. And as an example, I can give some security cases. For example, we had several cases when the radioactive sources were lost and nuclear material was lost and then found in some vehicles or with some people and so on. And who will be responsible for it, especially when you have these forensic procedures. For example, the departments of the Ministry of Interior Affairs, they are taking this material, radioactive sources or nuclear material, as evidence of the crime. But they do not have safety or security procedures how to work with these materials. And then we have problem of this coordination of different agencies. Also, we had problems of interaction with mass media. Who and how will give the official statement on an event, information on the event, and how we work with the public opinion, how to manage possible rumors, because you know that the yellow press, and they are very in social networks, they are ready to distribute any rumors about the very small event, but you have to have some maybe procedures, and at least you have to be ready to react to this kind of rumors. How to monitor mass media and social networks, and how to mitigate negative consequences of incompetent information. So next slide, please. Security issues. Of course, in any part of our activities, we had to clearly define roles and responsibilities of involved state authorities. In security case, this nuclear regulator, law enforcement ministries and agencies, national security organizations, and so on. Here, from our point of view, there was a problem of defining of a leading role of nuclear security in a nuclear security event of one of the organizations who will be responsible for management of the security event and who will be in general responsible for all the procedures and reaction to this event. Normally, it's law enforcement or national security that have a higher position in the governmental hierarchy that decreases role of nuclear regulator. But in principle, we were trying to increase the role of a nuclear regulator in the case of nuclear security events, because nuclear security was under responsibility of a nuclear regulator. But you know that, for example, National Security Committee is much more powerful than the nuclear regulator, and sometimes it gives some problems. And again, we have to establish the procedures for interaction of the involved authorities and agencies. And we have to develop the regulations for physical protection of nuclear facilities, licensing of nuclear security systems and equipment, development and formal legal enforcement of design-based threat, for example, on national and facility levels, nuclear forensics drills, training of nuclear security personnel, and so on. So there are very many activities around issues of nuclear security that should be very well procedurally defined. So because very powerful ministries and organizations are involved into this system, so we have to clearly define who is doing what, who is responsible for what, and so on. Next, please. Well, in 2017, with support of the Department of Defense of the United States, in the Institute of Nuclear Physics, there was established a nuclear security training center. Well, together with the Department of Energy, of course. Opening ceremony here, you can see that happened in May 12 in the Institute of Nuclear Physics in Almaty. We saw that the target auditorium was the physical protection and safeguard specialists on nuclear facilities, state authorities, law enforcement, and security services. So, the name of this center is Nuclear Security, but we are training people here not only on nuclear security, but on safeguards and other non-proliferation issues, nuclear weapons non-proliferation issues. Well, and this was a very good help to us, because you have to train people that will be working for our industry. Next, please. Well, in conclusion, I tried to give some challenges of Regulator. This is a sustainable legal and regulatory basis defining responsibility areas of involved state actors in nuclear field. This is one of the problems that we have to keep this sustainable basis. Then acquisition of adequate resources, financial, technical, and staffing. And well-developed procedures, interaction with other involved organizations, including state authorities, nuclear facilities, communication with mass media and population. Establishing of training, testing, and drilling programs for a nuclear regulator. And encourage establishment of technical support organizations and effective interaction with them. So this is also important. Well, next slide. Next. Well, thank you. I'm from Kazakhstan nuclear power plants now. In email, if somebody will be interested in additional information, I'll be ready to respond.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Timur. Before handing over to David, in the hope that there will be some time for some questions, I wanted to thank you for this presentation, whereby we learned a lot, in particular by the fact that you dwell on the challenges and the problems. Usually success has a lot of fathers, whereas the problems are orphans, like these orphan sources that you explained how you search for. So this problematic approach, I hope, will be very helpful for this among our African partners who would like to visit Kazakhstan through the project study visit, which we are preparing with the Nuclear Technology Safety Center. And we wish to say that because of coronavirus, it was postponed, but it was not canceled. So next year, come spring, we would be willing very much to organize this, in my view, very essential and very important visit, which will be coming. But now, David, over to you.
Thank you very much, Timo, for excellent presentation. Carmen, before we start the discussion about, could we give the time to our executive director for AFCON, just in case we solve the problem? And then I would encourage us to use chat to post our questions there, because so that we have a more flowing discussion. I thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. In fact, I turn over to Masoud to ask whether he's in a position to speak now. Hello, Masoud, do you hear us? Wonderful. Please try to switch it once again.
Unmute, please. Your microphone is muted, Masoud.
David, can we somehow unmute him ourselves?
Usually I can mute people, but unmuting them, I have not tried.
You can try.
Please try to mute everybody and unmute everybody.
So I've muted everybody. So now try and unmute Masoud.
Yes. Okay.
I can't hear him. So we continue with the discussion because we are not able to hear him. We can see him, but we are not able to hear him.
Okay.
So Timo, there is one question from a young generation. They're asking, could you please share your experience in sustainable human resource development? And is there some collaboration between the nuclear industry and academia in Kazakhstan? And finally, what lessons can Africa partners learn from the same? Thank you.
Well, thank you for your question. I can say that we did not establish a very good development of our resources. You know, this is the problem that we did not solve we had, of course, interaction with nuclear industry, because some people came to our committee from nuclear industry, from science, from academia, because as I said, these people should have some nuclear experience and background in nuclear sciences in order to serve as a nuclear regulator. Then, of course, they should be trained for nuclear regulatory issues. But we have very weak source, as if it can be said so, source of this stuff, this kind of stuff. And what lessons can African partners? Maybe one of the lessons that from the very beginning, you have to think about the staffing of your regulatory authority. We solved this problem ad hoc. So it happened that our country got the independence, and all these authorities were established very quick. So we got people that were at that time ready. And now we have a problem of changing of generations. The committee is looking for new people. For example, I was retired in 2018. And as I know, the committee has a lack of educated staff. So because we had no special system for education for the nuclear regulator, but maybe it should not be done so that some kind of the program for a nuclear regulator. The people should be educated and trained in industry and science and so on. Then, having this experience, they will come to the regulatory authority. But this system, it's better if this system will work from the very beginning. So, thank you.
Thank you, Timo. We are lucky. We are with the Deputy Director for Nuclear Regulatory Authority in Kenya. Is it possible, Arthur, you comment on human resource development, how we are going about it in a sustainable manner as concerns our nuclear regulator? I thank you.
Thank you very much. I think our situation is similar to that of Kazakhstan, in that maybe there's no sustainable method right now, but through NUPEA, that's the promotion organization, Kenya has been trying to train its nuclear staff through the Institute of Nuclear Science, University of Nairobi, where initially they were training science students without promising them any employment, but they're being trained every year. This has paused for a while. The other training opportunities we got is through the Republic of South Korea, where they offer Kenya about 8 slots per year to go and study MSc in nuclear engineering. About 3 slots come to the regulator, but because of our small numbers, the people who could go have gone. So that is available. The other training opportunities may be short-term through the IAEA, through training courses, conferences, and that type of thing. So locally, we have tried to train, but I think when the industry becomes serious, more people will be able to train. So basically, there is that what I've mentioned locally, and we can look at international partners to see where we could go also.
I thank you. And then we have our colleagues from Kenya Bureau of Standards, probably either Collins or Grace. You have very good equipment in the metrology directorate. which can be used to give good standards to not only our medical, but also people in industry. And of course, supporting issues, NDT, both in training and applications. So how can we as an institution relate with not only us in Kenya, but also internationally, like with the International Science and Technology Center, and you've heard how Kazakhstan has gone about it. Any of you, Collins or Grace? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Toma, for the good question. And last year, we were also happy to receive the delegation from ISTC. From a standards body perspective, the opportunities of cooperation could relate to development of standards and mostly on a training. And also, we were much interested in on intercomparison measurement, where we do testing of one parameter, and we do a comparison of a similar parameter with the ISTC. Then we check whether the two comparisons would be fairly correct. Those are the three areas where we can cooperate.
I thank you. You remember during the presentation, the welcoming remarks by our Director General, he challenged us how we can be communicating, especially to the public, because the public, when they hear nuclear, what goes in their minds is not issues energy, issues human health, issues agriculture. We are privileged to have Princess Thobeni from South Africa, who is also in the Africa Young Generation in nuclear, and she has been doing excellent work in communication. So what would you tell us in Kenya, how to go about communicating our science to the general public so that they can accept it? Princess, please. Thank you.
Hello, good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I didn't know you were going to put me on the spot. Otherwise, I was not going to join your meeting, Dr. Otomo. Anyway, thank you for the question. With regards to communication, I would first say you need to get young people to communicate. You need young people who will communicate in a very simple language. And you also need to go to do outreach a lot. You need to go to school, because at least when you go to school, you are able to catch you're able to catch them while they're still young. You are able to communicate at least with younger people who will go home and ask more questions when they get to their parents. And also, while you do school outreach, it's also important that you write a lot of articles which you post on social media, because lately many people or people that we target are on social media. So it's important that we become as visible as possible on social media. And also we need to engage people that we think are against us. So we need to reach out more to people that are not for nuclear and try to engage them and perhaps change their narrative a little bit, because I've noticed that some people that we've engaged before who are not pro-nuclear, they have slightly changed their narrative to understand that nuclear is not as bad as they thought it was, because we have been able to at least explain to them what nuclear is all about, which in different applications. And what is more important is to engage politicians. You know, in South Africa, for 2 years, we've created a group. A group is called Let's Talk Energy. in that group, there's politicians, there's media people, there's radio personality and TV personalities, there's people in different sources of energy. So it's all about debates. So and in that group, most people are politicians and government officials. And since that group, we've seen South Africa nuclear being treated differently, and we've seen politicians starting to get more interested in what nuclear is all about. And even in their manifestos, they started talking about nuclear. So yeah, I would say young people, politicians, media people, and general public is what we need to reach out to. Thank you.
Thank you, Princess. So the very last one we could hear from our Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. We have two ladies, Diana and Hilda. Now that Nuclear Power and Energy Agency is relating with NEMA as concerns the issues which to do with possible sites for future nuclear power plant in Kenya, what can you inform us you've learned from the problems or the experiences of Kazakhstan as presented by Timo? And now that we are going ahead with our plans, what do you see as going to be our biggest challenges, and how will you propose we go about solving them? Either Diana or Hilda, any of the two ladies. Thank you.
Diana, please, you can go. Diana is our environmental scientist, and she can give a very good, yeah.
Hilda, it's like she took a screen break.
I'm bringing her back. We can continue as I get her.
So from the universities, either Dr. Hashim or my good professor Mangala, in Kazakhstan, they have the Institute of Nuclear Physics. Going forward, and the Institute of Nuclear Physics, have been privileged in my previous life to visit it. They have a test reactor, they have research reactors, and they also have had experiences in decommissioning their older, actually not only their older, but also their first breeder reactor. So from the university perspective, what can you share with us, either Dr. Hashim or Professor Mangala? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Otuoma. Thank you very much, all the presenters. I've been following very keenly. Very nice lessons learned from Kazakhstan. Maybe what I can report here is that Kenya will be participating in the Internet Reactor Lab project from the IAEA. So we'll be receiving live transmissions from Morocco, and that is very, very exciting. What you have pointed out, it's true, the universities have a big role to play in capacity building. So the lessons learned from Kazakhstan, their Institute of Nuclear Physics, they are well noted. I think that is the direction Kenya should be taking. But at the moment, we are really excited to be participating in the IAEA Internet Reactor Lab project, which is coming up very, very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hashim. Dr. Carmen, probably because we are already past our time, I could return the microphone to you, unless Diana or Hilda wish to say anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, but indeed, if Diana or Hilda are the ones who have, of course, precedence if they want to say something.
Yeah, Diana is coming. Diana is joining. Yeah, so she's a. I think she had had a small engagement, and she's back. So she will maybe Dr. Otoma, you can repeat the question for her for her to be able to get it. I've told her, but she wants to hear the question again.
Thank you, Hilda. So the question to Nuclear Power and Energy Agency was that after listening to the experiences of Kazakhstan and noting that we've given our first report on possible sites for our future nuclear power plants to our NEMA. NEMA stands for National Environmental Management Agency. And what NEMA has done, it has called for public participation. That is, they want the public to look at the report which was prepared by NUPEA and give their feedback of these possible nuclear power plant sites in Kenya. So what my question was to NUPEA, what challenges do you see going forward when the public participation starts? And also, how do you intend to deal with those challenges? I thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Otoma. I hope everyone can hear me. So the SESA report has been submitted to NEMA for the final step, which is now getting the feedback from the public on maybe things that they think are not clear in the report, things that they may want clarification. And of course, one of them that has been in the media lately is about where the site is. And well, the challenges that we face and how to meet them is right now the public would want to know that they are really protected from any impacts that may result from the nuclear power plant construction and operation. And how we are planning to meet this is that in NUPEA we have a department and a program for public engagement. So upon the decision on where exactly the site is going to be, we are going to be having intense public and stakeholder engagement in those areas. And this is mainly to build the confidence of the community and to assure them of their safety going forward. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it does very well. Unless there's any other question, and I do not see anything else also in chat, I would like to return the microphone to Carmen to close the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your efforts. And thank you each and everyone who attended and participated in the discussion. I regret, of course, that we couldn't hear from Masoud Omer, but I hope that either in written form, message could be emailed to you, or you would be so kind as to join in our next meeting, which we plan to hold in September, as well as subsequently one more. The question is that there is an ongoing process of joining forces between the two nuclear weapons-free zones, that of Africa and that in Central Asia. This collaboration is spearheaded by AFCON and Kazakhstan as a president rotating chairman of the nuclear weapons-free zone in Central Asia. So I hope we will be having a further opportunity to discuss a forum which we intend to continue to organize with the participation, of course, of our counterparts from the COSTI, as well as from AFCON, and we'll keep you informed of that. In other words, when trying to sum it up, whether there is additional benefit in the peer-to-peer cooperation and exchange of experience and lessons learned between various regions of the world that are known to have proven interest into the development of the nuclear energy sector, as well as in other forms of peaceful nuclear applications. My feeling is that you would agree that it is useful, and you can prove that with your continuous interest if you remain in touch with us, and if you remain with particular interest to this very rewarding source of experience on which you can tap. In other words, by thanking you for today, I say I put not a full stop, neither an exclamation mark, but dots, because this type of exchange is meant to continue. If it is of use to yourselves and your counterparts from research centers, nuclear governance sector, nuclear industry in other parts of the world. And I believe the answer to this question is self-evident. If ISTC can help bridge these communities, we would be feeling that we have done our part of our mission. Thank you once again, and thank very much the participants, in particular, of course, Dr. Timur Jantekin for his presentation, and Dr. David Otuoma for his able steering of the discussion today. Thank you very, very much. Goodbye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.